Hello, Star Citizens, and welcome to another day, another IAE sale. So now we're doing Argo, we're doing Consolidated, Outland, we're doing Greycat, and we're doing Krueger Intergalactic. This should be a short one because even though these ships are, it's kind of a lot, it's not really things that you have to talk about in great depth because they're very simple ships for the most part. So we'll just hop in. I already looked at the CCU and I'm not impressed. Before we do that, as always, if you're not subscribed, you're running out of days to subscribe to qualify for our December contest. So make sure you're subscribed in November. And I gotta say it every time because I don't want anybody to say I didn't know. If you are subscribed, consider hitting that join button because then you have that 25% chance of winning. But also it helps out the channel. And aren't you helpful? You're just a helpful person. And always shout out to the members. This one I think is going to be pretty interesting. I have some interesting takes on some of these ships, and I'm also an Argo fanatic, even though I don't own any Argo ships. The thing about the fact that I don't own any Argo ships is because I know that I don't need them, but I keep trying to work them in. So my guess is out of the next two ships that Argo makes, they'll probably get something that I'll get. I do have the SM, so technically I have one of the vehicles. So technically, I do have an Argo ship. It's just not a ship, it's a vehicle. But yeah, this is gonna be an interesting one. It's just gonna be a short one. And I will try to get this video out earlier than 11 p.m. tonight. I had a lot of internet issues yesterday. So yeah, and so if you were wondering if I was gonna play the game and try to get that save Stanton done, it just wasn't happening. My internet was just terrible last night. Yeah, you should be watching this after the stream. So I will have already talked about that. So if you don't know that we do stream every day of IAE, but normally outside of IAE and other special events, we stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So you can go check our community page for all that information. All right, let's get to it. So I looked at this. It's just a $10 CCU. You got to spend $5 to get the CCU. It's not great. It's not great. It's great if you need a raft. That's the only time it's great, is if you need a raft, and then it's great because you're about to save $10, but other than that, it's skippable. Now, something that I do, because of at this stage of the game, I do buy all the war bonds and then I just melt them later if I don't need them. And the reason I do that is because every once in a while you need some very awkward or weird war bond to fill your CCU chain. And so I always buy a few of them just in case I come up to some very awkward CCU chain thing that I need to fill. But that's just me. I'm at that stage of the game. So it is what it is. All right, let's get to these ships, starting with the one that's not a ship, which is the Atlas. So this thing came out, it was overpriced, it's still overpriced. At the same time, now that it's in game, I think most people know that they're gonna earn it in game. I think for me, I needed to have at least one with LTI that I didn't really have to worry about, just because for me, a lot of it's about the hassle. When I log on to play the game, I don't wanna have to go and find, because I lost my Atlas, I don't wanna have to go to the terminal, buy another one. All my time is precious. I'd rather spend the 40 bucks. Yeah, I don't want to really have to run around a whole lot just to get my ships back and stuff like that. But that's just me. That's just me. I'm not going to tell anybody to go and buy an Atlas. However, if you're struggling with the fact that your ship doesn't have a tractor beam, this is your solution. Assuming you could fit one on the ship, or assuming that you get one where you're at to load it and then you don't mind unloading it without the use of a tractor beam. So most of the time the loading part is the most difficult. Like when you're unloading it, you just toss it into the freight elevator, right? But yeah, so I can imagine people spending money on this. I think if you got it with LTI, that's the only time it was worth it. I don't think it's worth it without LTI. The CSV SM. So this is the mule we deserve, I think. I'm waiting to do a review on this one, so I won't say too much about it. All I know is I think this is going to very much so pair well with its brother, the CSV FM. I was hoping that that would be for sale, but that's not for sale. The FM is going to be the one with, I believe, medium, either 2 or 4 medium base building drones. So that's going to be able to do base building, and this is kind of like the refill thing, because this carries, if I'm not mistaken, 4 SCU. And with that 4 SCU it carries, it's a vehicle that carries 4 SCU, which we've needed for a very long time. So this, again, I need to drive it. I don't think it's going to be a speedy vehicle or anything like that. I don't think it's going to be, it's going to win any races or anything. But I do think if it has that turning capability that the Mole has, that would be really cool. I don't think it does though. So yeah, it's really going to be about what vehicles does this fit in and what you need it for. But it should really be used for that like cargo loading thing where you don't have an Atlas or you need to go and pick the stuff up and take it to a different location, because the Atlas is not going to be great at that. It's really for that like short distance. I need to take 4 SCU from over here to over there. It'll probably be mostly on bases. Like, I don't see a whole lot of people doing a ton of cargo missions in this, like, because most of the time you're just going to put the cargo on a ship. So it's more likely that you're just gonna be able to just put the 4 SCU on this, take it to the other side of your base, and voila. But I just don't know how often that's going to be necessary until we get base building, because when we get base building, I do think the resource management and what you have to do on your base is going to require you to take 1 SCU of this over there, 2 SCU of this over there, and that's where I think this vehicle is really going to shine. Right now it has LTI, right now it's $45, and right now that is worth the price if you are at that stage of buying vehicles. My overall advice about buying vehicles, not ships, but vehicles, is don't get vehicles until you've owned all of the ships that you want to earn in the game, and in that way you don't really lose out on spending your money in a way that's, I don't know, value-based. Because what happens, I think, is sometimes people see a cool vehicle, they purchase it, and then they're like, oh, but I don't own, you know, I want to own a Carrack, but I don't have enough money for a Carrack. But then you look at their fleet and they have like 14 vehicles. Like, no, dude, melt those vehicles, get your Carrack with LTI, then go back and start purchasing those vehicles one by one. But get all of your ships first before you start buying vehicles. And I don't know if I'll add this one to the list of I have my 5 vehicles that are must buys for me, but I don't know if I'll add this yet. I got to drive it and see what it fits inside of and stuff like that. The Mole. Okay, so the Mole is kind of weird, right? Because I have issues with it, but I also love the way it looks, but I also think it needs a little bit more than what it has. So it's in a weird space where it looks amazing, and it performs almost where it's supposed to be, but it also needs a little bit more. It's a weird space for me. So let me say what I mean. So first of all, let's talk about the looks. This thing looks incredible. Everything about it, they knocked it out of the park. I absolutely love the way this thing looks inside and out. This is one of the ships that made me fall in love with the Argo style. It is an absolute masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. I love this ship. It's one of my top 10 favorite looking ships in the game, and it's a mining ship. So that's really what makes it weird, because the Prospector is so ugly, and I'm sorry to the person who made it. I know that the MISC aesthetic works for a lot of people, but to me it just does not. But Argo kills it. That's the weird thing, because it's one of the prettiest. We only got 2 miners in the game right now, but it's the prettiest miner right now. And when the Rastra might knock that out of the park, but I'll have to do a side-by-side to see as far as just how pretty it is, right? But it's weird in that way. But let's get to the mining part. My biggest problem with it is that I think you should be able to control the mining from that pilot seat and just do it all. Like, the ship is not so large that I should have to go and get to other mining seats, and I think it would really benefit from having that mining capability just all controllable by the Pilot. I think that would really, really help it. That's my biggest knock against it, the lack of solo ability. But I want to be very clear, that's just my knock against it. That's not what it's meant for. It is meant for you to get 2 friends, hop in that thing, and then go mining. So my knock against it, like I said, it's weird. So I prefaced it, it's weird. It's more so of what I wish it was rather than what it is. And I mean, if you have exactly 2 people with you and you go and you mine in this thing, you're gonna have a great time. But I just think I'd rather have an Arastra. Arastra's not in game yet though. And then when I wouldn't rather have an Arastra, I'm like, I'd probably rather go with a Prospector if I'm solo. So this really is for the multi-crew. But again, if I have 3 people and I have an Arastra, I'd rather take out the Arastra. So I just think it needs a little bit more. It does carry 96 SCU of ore. So, I mean, it's just ore bags. But still, that's a really nice amount, which is much more than the Prospector, but also significantly less than the Arastra. It's 315 is my biggest issue with it. I'd say if it was 250, I could probably see getting it for 250 because the Prospector is 150, 155 actually. So with the Prospector being 155, I could see getting it for 250, but I can't really see spending more than that. So if you're gonna get it, I would say play the CCU, the upgrade game, and see if you could get it for 250 or less, and then it would be worth your money. The MPUV Cargo, the MPUV Personnel, the MPUV Tractor. Okay, so there are use cases for these, but those use cases are being limited every single day. Like every time they release a new ship, the use cases of these kind of drops a little bit. So let me give you this one. This is for if you need the cheapest ship that can do some internal cargo and have it be a little bit to where you can put kind of whatever you want in there. But short term, right? Like you don't need to really take it anywhere far. You just need to take it maybe from planet to the ship or to the ship in space or to a space station, or maybe you're at a space station and you just need to move some cargo from here to over there. And I also think these will be great on bases just from moving things from point A to point B. And this is what I was talking about with the CSV SM, where most of the time you're gonna just wanna use a ship instead of the vehicle. So the thing that's really gonna work for this is the ease of access, how quickly you can get in it and out of it. Whereas like the vehicles, that has to match up. It has to be, you have to be really able to really quickly get inside of a vehicle and get out of it in order for it to be really useful. And I think you're gonna, this is where the SM it has trouble finding its value, is because these things exist. So the cargo one is obviously the internal one, and then this one is the external one. But let's talk really quickly about the personnel. The personnel is if you need to take a few people with you. And again, personnel shuttle, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the most common thing that you saw on most bases where there's multiple areas of the city, because this is probably going to take you from one area of the city to another area of the city. And yeah, it's just exactly what it says. There's people on the ground that they can't use a ship to get to your ship. They get inside of this ship. You take them up to the ship that they need to get into. They get out of this, get into that ship, good to go. Yeah, it's very basic. It's a taxi. This is the one to buy though. If you're going to buy one of these, right, this is the one to me that has the most value. If I'm not mistaken, that is a 32 SCU container. And on top of the fact that it can carry that underslung, it has the ability to carry more than this. I think it can carry a 32 SCU box, if I'm not mistaken, with its tractor beam. So you can have something tractor beamed and then you can go up and fill up your whole C. I think that's the main purpose of this. It's to load up the whole C or any ship that needs loading, really, because of how much it can carry at the same time. However, from what people have been telling me, unless you need to go outside of your hangar, like go up to, you know, a space station or something, or move it a very far distance, the Atlas is better as far as moving things quickly. You're going to be much faster using an Atlas than the MPUV Tractor. So it really does, it's really something you have to say, do I need this or the Atlas? And also, can I get it with LTI? Because another thing about these is, even though they're a little cheaper, they're just outside that price where I'm like, you should buy this with cash. And their utility is good, but not great. So I don't know. I don't think these are ships that are going to get blown up a lot either. So that's the thing where I wonder, like, is it worth having it with LTI? Because it's not going to get blown up that much. I mean, maybe you'll lose it, but I just don't see. I don't see you really needing to spend cash on these. The Raft, it's the only one of these. Well, there's a few of these. There's a few of these. The mining one, the Mole, I wanted, but I only really wanted it because of the looks. The Raft, it has the exact same thing going for it. It's kind of a tie between the Raft and the Mole as far as which one I like more. But the Raft it carries 96 SCU. It's all underslung. It can carry smaller boxes, even though they look like they can only carry 332 SCU containers. You can fit, if you look inside this little port right here, you can actually fit a Atlas in there. Now, I don't think it's supposed to fit in there, but from what I've seen, it does fit. So that means you can take an Atlas with you to unload this thing. However, you don't really need to. It does have a tractor beam. The tractor beam I just think is not operational right now. But it has a very nice interior. It has a unique position for its cab right here, its cockpit. So yeah, it's a decent ship. My biggest thing about it though is there's so many ships just above it or just below it that can either do what it does, or they have better weapons, or like the trade-offs are so much better for what you get. And that's my biggest issue with it. It's just the trade-offs. Like, I don't know why I would get this instead of a C1. Yeah, it covers, it takes like 32 more SCU, but at the same time, the C1 is a much better flyer. I mean, it's more fun to fly. It's, I don't know if it's tougher anymore, but it's tough enough, and it has better weapons. So yeah, it's one of those ships like almost CIG, almost had it. But I can get why a lot of people would want this if you have a whole C, or if you have extremely large transportation ships, or if transportation is your biggest game loop. I could see why you would get a Raft. I have no, I mean, at 125, you're not wasting money, so to speak. I just don't need it in my fleet, but I wish I did. And then the SRV. The SRV is mainly meant to carry large, size 4 and down vehicles, which are in that recovery stage where, you know, wings blown off, they have the soft death, so to speak. And it's meant to bring those to a repair facility or bring them back so that you don't have to claim them. Now, right now, the prices are not conducive to that. So the price to repair isn't conducive to the price to replace. So once they figure all that out and balance it, the SRV will be a really cool vehicle to have. I'm not as big of a fan of the looks of this one as I am the rest, but it's still Argo and it's still nice. And I just really love the way the engines look on all the Argo ships. I love the orange coloring. I don't know, it works for me. So it has a really nice interior. It doesn't have any weapons though, absolutely 0 weapons, which I do think kind of acts as a negative to it. I get that they just didn't want to balance it, but yeah, no weapons. It was really not supposed to fight anyway, but I hope it ends up being really tough because it doesn't have those weapons. And I hope that's how they end up balancing that. But we'll see. Yeah. Oh, I forgot. One thing about the SRV is this works really well with people who do mining, because when you're mining, right, let's say you have a static position, you are staying still and you are mining, and let's say you have a mole, just because that's what we talked about, and you have all 3 lasers, and then one person finishes theirs, but the other 2 people are still working on theirs, and then the next rock or asteroid is a little bit too far away or something like that. You can have a person get out of the seat that they're in, get out, get into the SRV and move that asteroid over to where you need it to be, or have a 4th person that's constantly moving the asteroids right in front of you, so all you got to do is grab it, mine, and then people are just grabbing the rocks and mining rather than having to consistently move it. Same thing with like an Arastra. I can imagine, you know, one of these working very well within Arastra to move things in front of it. The Prospector doesn't need it as much, but yeah, I can imagine kind of the same thing for the Orion as well. Like, you know, the Orion obviously it's going to have a big tractor beam and be able to move stuff, but I can imagine the SRV just being like, nah, I got it, I'll move it for you, and just bringing things closer to the Orion. So that's a secondary purpose for it, if you were wondering why I think it's still a decent value. And it's at $165. I do think it's priced correctly. And yeah, that's it for Argo. Let's get to Greycat. We'll do Greycat, Krueger, and then we'll end with Consolidated Outland for obvious reasons. All right, so Greycat got the PTV at $15. I mean, it's a buggy, and you know, what is that? 3 cups of coffee. You know, you could get a Greycat buggy if you want. It doesn't do anything except ride. So it's good for if you have an extra large hangar to get around in, but it's you know, it is what it is. It's $15. You can get one as a referral if if you get 15 referrals, it's either 10 or 15 referrals, you can get one for free. I think it's 15. But yeah, it's all it does is ride, doesn't do anything else. It gets you from point A to point B, but that's kind of all you need it for. The Rock. So this is one of my 5 vehicles that I think every person should own. Now, if you absolutely hate mining, have no interest in mining, have no interest in this type of mining as far as being on the ground, then I get it, it's not for you. But for me, I think most people, if they want to just, you know, dip their toes into mining a little bit, the FPS mining doesn't quite give you the full experience. I think this is the first part where you get that full experience. And at $55, you could find a way to get to it and still get LTI for it. It's just great because it can go into the caves like you see in the picture here, and it can get those rocks that are too big for you to bust with the FPS miner. And I just think the way that it's built, man, it's so cool looking the way you get into it and get out of it. I also like the fact that it carries enough like SCU to where you can stay out and do it for long enough to where it doesn't feel like it's annoying. But if you need more, you get the Rock DS. But we always tell people not to get the Rock DS, and it's because it has one major design flaw. If it didn't have this design flaw, it would be the go-to mining vehicle. But you see here where the second person gets in, because this is a single seater, obviously, and this is a dual seater. Now, I would have much rather them put this seat, made this a little longer, and put this seat behind or in front or something. But to the side is the biggest problem, because when you put it to the side, the seat is useless if you need to go in a cave, because you can't really fill it. You have to leave it because it can't fit in most places inside of a cave. And I think that's really where the Rock DS shines, is being able to go into caves and mine things, because otherwise I can land a prospector or get really close to the ground with a prospector and do way better mining outside. The Rock is really meant for that cave diving experience, or to get to places that ships just can't get. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cave, but just get to places where a ship can't get to. And the biggest problem with the DS is it can't get to places. So that's why if you hear a lot of people talking smack about the Rock DS, that's why. All they got to do is just move this co-pilot seat to inside the cab, and I think they'll sell a lot more of them. But I don't think they care enough to do it. It was probably just an onboarding project for someone anyway. The STV. So this is surprisingly fast, but it is all-terrain sport. So that's what it is. It's a very fast vehicle. As you can see, you can put weapons on it. I think you can put like 2/8 SCU in the back. So 1/8 on one side and 1/8 on the other side. So it can carry a little bit, you know, but it's not really meant for that. It's really meant for, like, if you find something cool, you could take it with you, but it's mostly meant, put a weapon on there, you know, grab a friend, they put a weapon on there, and you go. And then it's really just about if I find something. And at $40, again, you're not spending too much money on it, but I just think if I'm gonna get a vehicle that can carry things, I'm wondering why I wouldn't get a Dragonfly, which can carry about the same as much and can carry 2 people. And you don't have to worry about where to store your weapons because you can just keep them on your back because it's a hover vehicle. So that's my biggest issue with this is it's basically a 4-wheeled variant of the Dragonfly. When I put these two against each other, that's my biggest complaint is I can't find a reason to get the STV instead of a Dragonfly because the Dragonfly can hover and it can fit in more things. So yeah, that's my biggest knock against it. But this thing is fast for a ground vehicle, so I see why people would get it. And it fits inside of a cutter. It's one of the best vehicles that you can match with a cutter. So there you have it. And yeah, that's the PTV. So yeah, that's all of Greycat. Let's go to Krueger. Krueger's very quick because Krueger just has the P52 Merlin and the P72 Archimedes. So what's the difference? Slightly different guns. This one's faster and has slightly better guns depending on who you talk to. I think it has better guns, but some people think that some people prefer the guns on this one. Whereas I believe this one has the 3 guns, and then it has like you can kind of see it there, the gun there. And whereas this one, I think it has all of them wing mounted, all 4 weapons underslung. Whereas this one has, as you can see, the weapon here, and then the 2 weapons on the side. So that's the thing about those. If you prefer this weapon, then you might prefer the P52, but I'd take the increased speed and maneuverability of the P72. But that's just me. It's $10 though, so that's what you're paying for. But here's the thing. You can get the P72 if you get the Constellation Phoenix, and it comes with the Lynx Rover. So if you take the price of the Phoenix, right? The price of the Phoenix is $350, and you take $35 off because it comes with the P72. Now you're looking at $315 for a Phoenix, right? And then you take the price of the Lynx off, which I believe is $60. Now you're looking at, no, $60, right? So me trying to do math, you caught me off guard, math, as you always tend to do. $255. So now if you do the cost analysis, you pay $255 for the actual ship, the Phoenix. You get the P72 and the Lynx, which can cancel out some of the rest of that cost. And that's where the real value, I think, of the Constellation Phoenix is, in what you get with it, but you have to need both of those. And most people would be like, yeah, the P72 is great, but most people don't need the Lynx, and they'd rather have an Ursa Rover or something like that. So what I wish they would do, since they're gonna make the Phoenix this limited and difficult ship to get anyway, is I wish they would let you choose which ship you wanted it to come with. And they could keep the value the same by saying, basically, if you get a more expensive vehicle that comes with the Phoenix, then maybe you have to downgrade to the P52 instead of the P72 or something like that. But yeah, I just wish you could kind of mix and match that. It seems like a pretty cool thing to do, as long as it can fit in the hangar, right? And as long as not the hangar, can fit in the cargo bay that is also a hangar. To me, the P72 is the one to get here. The P52 is that $25 price, right, though, where if you buy one, are you really wasting any money? Because it's dinner, you know, at a decent place, at a decent restaurant, you know. But I mean, 35 isn't much more expensive at a, you know. So it's like, I wouldn't get them. These are both of these can be used for racing. They're not just fighters and snubs. That they do fit into a lot of ships, but it's really about what do you need it for, right? If this is going to be your dedicated snub and you're going to use a snub all the time, or if this is going to be your dedicated racing ship, I can get why you would spend money on these. But otherwise, I think you're better off just getting the Phoenix if you want the P72 and then just taking it out of there, or getting either the Aquila or the Andromeda, which both come with the P52, because both of those are amazing ships and they both come with the P52. So rather than buying one outright, I think you get a better value if you get those ships. Now, if you don't like large ships, I get that. So I can, like I said, I gave you my reasons why I think you could get both. All right, let's go to Consolidated Outland and end it there. The Pioneer, of course, is the one we're going to start with. Well, let's just knock it out. It's $850. It's worth it. I think we all know at this point, it doesn't have the arm anymore. I don't know why they're still using the old picture. They have plenty of new pictures. They really need to talk to the website team. But yeah, it doesn't even do this thing with the arm anymore, and it looks completely different. It doesn't do this internal, I don't even know what this is. This internal building thing that it used to, it doesn't do any of that. It looks completely different. This is bigger. It's got like a control tower. It just looks so different now. So I don't know why they still use these pictures, but it is the builder of builders, the base builder extraordinaire. It is going to be worth tons of money in the verse, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put it up by another amount. I was actually surprised that it didn't go up to be 1,000. But I get why they didn't do that, because they really want to keep these ships out of being guaranteed for LTI, because then they have to go back and give everybody else LTI, and it's going to be a whole thing. So I don't know why they don't just do that. It's not that big a deal, like whatever. But it just goes to show you that CIG is very aware of what they're doing with LTI. A lot of people say that CIG doesn't really care about LTI. Yes, they do. They absolutely 100% care about LTI. Otherwise, they wouldn't be like putting these ships at these prices to just avoid LTI. But yeah, the Pioneers, I mean, what can I say? It's one of my favorite ships. I'm glad I got mine last year so I didn't have to pay for the price increase. This is literally the first time it's increased in, what, 6 years? So yeah, I mean, it's still worth it. It's still worth it. You just can't get one unless you do the F5 wars. So good luck if you watching this before 7 o'clock. Good luck at 7 o'clock. Well, Eastern Standard Time, of course. And if you're watching this before 3 a.m., good luck at 3 a.m. But I got mine, so I'm good. Just be aware, it doesn't come with the land claim anymore. So if you're reading elsewhere, it does not come with the land claim anymore. So just be aware of that. It doesn't come with that. The HoverQuad. So when it comes to these types of vehicles, these hover vehicles, right, you got the Nox, which I believe is the fastest. You got the X1 Force, which is the only one that comes with a shield. And then you have the Dragonfly, which is the only one that carries 2 people, and the only one that has multiple spaces for 1/8 the little tiny 1/8 cargo boxes. What is the HoverQuad for then? Well, the HoverQuad it's the second slowest, so it's faster than the Dragonfly. The X1 Force is right in the middle. The Pulse is the second fastest as far as the hover bikes, but the Nox is just the fastest. I think there's a correction from the other day. I think I said that the Nox just had average speed, but this is the thing about these hover vehicles. They've been overbalanced, underbalanced, rebalanced so many times that I can't remember which stats are which, but it does look like the Nox is the fastest one out of all of these, and the Nox has weapons. So that's the reason to buy the Nox. If you were wondering and you were like, no, he said he was Nox slander. No, it wasn't Nox slander. CIG needs to be consistent about these things and give them a little bit of love. But the HoverQuad, its biggest claim to fame is its maneuverability and the ability to put things inside of it. So internal storage, this has the best internal storage of the hover bike. So that's your thing, and it looks really cool. I don't know, some people don't like it. I love it. I think it's the closest thing to like one of those, I don't know the name of it, but there's certain speeders on Star Wars, and this one really reminds me of like what those would look like if they were like a modern version. Because remember, in Star Wars, it takes place in a galaxy far away, but a long, long time ago. So imagine if it was modern Star Wars, and that's what I would see with this. But yeah, $30. I don't think it's really worth $30, but you can get one of these as a referral reward. They come up very often as referral rewards, so I wouldn't spend the money just because it's very likely that you'd be able to get one with just adding one person to the game. Even just doing an alt account, and you'll get one of these. So, you know, at $30, you know, I think it's worth it, especially, you know, the referral one comes with LTI, and that's the biggest thing. The Mustang Alpha, now I have very little to say about these, so I'll be very quick. These are all starter ship. All the Mustangs are starter ships. The Mustang Alpha is the one you get if you just want to take a little bit of cargo. Very little bit. These are all starter ships, so you should just be doing exactly the type of mission that suits them and then moving along. Or if you just really like the looks of them, you should be buying them last in your fleet. This is the exploration one. This is more so about finding things and, you know, not things that I really need to take with me, but really about finding things and getting to a place. But it also has decent living quarters inside of it, and that's really, I think, the focus of it. Finding things and having some decent living quarters. Really decent for the Mustang Beta. I was thoroughly surprised when I looked inside that thing. The Mustang Delta. So this is the fighter variant. Obviously, if you want to do, you know, fighting as when you start out. However, it's overpriced. There are better fighters. I wouldn't get this one. Out of all these, this is the one I would get the least because of the fact that there's just so many other fighters that are just better, straight up better. The Mustang Gamma. Now, if you want to very early on get into racing, I could see why people would get this, but that's really what it's for. It's just there for racing. There is a Mustang Omega as well, but that one was limited. It's a very, very rare ship because I think it was like some AMD thing where they gave it away and now they can't resell it because of a contract with AMD or something. I don't know. Something like that. But the Mustang Omega is, I think, the exact same, except it has like a fuel scoop or something. I think it has like one extra component. I can't remember which one, and it has a fuel scoop. So the Omega is the better one of the versus the Mustang Gamma, but the one to purchase, the two to focus on for me are the Alpha and the Beta, because the Alpha genuinely is, you know, at $30, it's a decent starter cargo ship, and the Beta, it has very decent living quarters at $40. So those are the two I would focus on, but hey, to each their own. And then our last ship of the day, the Nomad. Now I own one of these, but I don't own one because I really wanted one, but I don't hate the ship. It's not a ship that I needed, but I just happened to own one because of a CCU thing that in order to get LTI on a pack, I have to own one. What do I have to say about the Nomad? My biggest issue with it is how wide it is. I just don't feel like, I would have rather them went a little bit like, I would have rather it be a double decker ship rather than like be this wide, because that means if people catch you at that top down angle, you are just going to get destroyed, peppered with bullets. But it's not a fighter ship. So that's the thing. It's not a fighter ship. It actually is, I think, supposed to be an advanced starter. I don't know what CIG's version, I don't know where they do that demarcation. For me, I think advanced starters are anything below, I'd probably have to say 175. I think advanced starters are when you get past the $100 mark. I think it carries 24 SCU. It can carry a vehicle on the back. I believe it can carry a Cyclone on the back. I think that's the biggest vehicle it can fit on the back. But you know, check my math on that one. But 24 SCU is nothing to slog at for 80 bucks. And most of the time you can get this with a starter pack or with a game pack. So you're saving money there. You're probably saving like 20, 30 bucks if you get this with the game pack. So that's where it becomes very useful if you got the game pack with it, especially if you got Squadron 42 included. But the most interesting thing about the Nomad is not actually the ship itself, because the ship does need some love and it needs an update. And once they figure out what the Consolidated Outland style is, I do think this will get an update that will make it better. And hopefully it gets a better nose gun and some decent armor to make up for the fact that it's just a flying massive target. But the most interesting thing about the Nomad is that they gave, I want to say it was one of these 3 years. It was either, or no, it was 2 years. It was either 2948 or 2950 Citizen Con. They had a Nomad where any ship that upgrades to the Nomad gets LTI. So even if the ship you had 6-month insurance, if you upgraded to the Nomad, boom, now that ship has LTI. And it's a very rare, if I would have known about it, I would have bought 10 of these things, but I didn't know about it. But any ship that upgrades to the Nomad gets LTI. But it's not just that. Any ship pack you buy, if you upgrade one of the ships to a Nomad and keep the Nomad, if you upgrade one of the ships in that pack to a Nomad that has that LTI, the entire pack gets the LTI. And that is extremely useful because there are so many packs that you can buy for credits. Then you do this Nomad thing and now your whole pack has LTI. And that is really cool. So if you can find those, they're generally worth whatever you're going to pay for them. However, I was down in the dumps because I found one. It was like 200 bucks. And I was like, the pack that I wanted to use it on was only $450. So I'm like, I'm going to lose all of my savings to put LTI on. I really only wanted LTI on one of the ships anyway. And then I have to lose one of the ships because I have to upgrade it to a Nomad. So I was like, it just wasn't worth it. But then luckily somebody in this great community gave me one of these because they just didn't have a use for it. So that was awesome. And you guys are awesome. This whole community is awesome. And that's the note that I want to end on outside of looking at this event schedule. So tomorrow's my day. We'll see what I can get. I have to do the F5 Wars tomorrow. Then we get, and Drake is also one of the best, as far as like the utility of its ships. I absolutely dislike the way Drake ships look. Generally because I'm not a fan of their particular style, but their utility is second to none almost. It's either first, second, or third as far as utility of a manufacturer. So that's where the love comes from. Origin, not really its time to shine right now. It had a little bit of time where, they were talking about the 600i rework and they released the 400i and then the X1s came out and then they was just like, back to the back of the bus for you. And then Anvil Aerospace will end us out, which that's another one where I'm hoping, but I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm hoping that we get at least a look at whatever this Anvil Paladin thing is going to be. And yeah, then we do Best in Show. This is where you'll finally get your skins if you had the Best in Show ships. I have 2 that are waiting on skins and then they're out of here. Then I have the grand finale. I think this is where you have to start buying your ships, finalizing all of your CCUs and getting everything. And we should get a CCU every single day of this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 CCUs left. The one for today wasn't great. So there you have it. That is your Argo, Consolidated Outland, Greycat Industrial, Krueger Intergalactic Day 5 video. Thank you for watching. Much appreciation to all of the people who subscribe. And of course, shout out to the members. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.